Hello and welcome back to Let's Get the Neighbors Talking.
Hello.
I'm Courtney,
And I'm Lauren.
and we have a special guest today.
We do.
A lot of our Instagram followers are
Lo-
huge fans
Love
of
Mayor.
this person.
Mayor for president.
Mayor for president, Mayor needs a better chair, Mayor should be treated to a spa day. Meredith works too hard, she needs a day off. You guys torture Mayor.
Yeah.
All right, so listen up, everybody. Meredith Williams Reitz is on the podcast today.
She is. And she brings a lot more than just graphic design and Moon and Stone. That's for damn sure.
So Lauren is Meredith's sister.
Meredith is my sister.
Meredith.
Or.
And Meredith is our very, very, very well-loved graphic designer, jewelry designer, best friend, sister.
Geppetto.
And we're so lucky to have her here today. She has very amazing stories to share with us. Today we are going to talk to Meredith about grief and love, finding love, recovery, and I'm just really happy to have you here to share your story. And I'm so glad that you are so open to sharing this, not only with us, but with everybody else out there. And there's a lot of people. But you've always been so brave about sharing who you are and your story from beginning to end. And it's got a lot of twists and turns and a lot of love and a lot of bravery and growth, and ends with a beautiful, beautiful love story. So really excited to have you here.
Welcome, Mayor.
Hi. Thank you. This is exciting.
Is it weird for the two of you to be on together?
No, because I talk to her all the time.
Yeah, you talk to her all the time, but you don't talk to her on a podcast all the time in front of a bunch of people.
How many times am I going to have to tell you that I don't view this as a podcast that anybody actually listens to? Basically, this is just like gets taped and then I don't even I don't even re-listen this back.
Oh. Yeah, you guys out there, I'm the only one who listens to the podcast before it gets aired. And sometimes she airs it without me even knowing.
That just happened once.
All right.
Yeah, I don't think you knew it aired, Lauren.
No, I didn't know it aired.
It was sneaky.
Yes.
A little sneaky exit. All right. Meredith, we love you.
Love you.
And on January 21st, 2023, your life changed.
Yeah. So I can, I'll do the long version, short podcast version of it. But on the 21st, it was a Saturday, and my husband and I and CJ, my son, who was 11 at the time, we had a great day. And it was like 5:00 at night. And CJ kept, you guys know CJ obviously, but he is relentless. And he kept saying, I want to go to the neighbors. I want to go to the neighbors. I'm like, dude, it's 5:00 on a Saturday. Like, leave him alone. And then finally I was like, fine, go. And thank God I did, because like 5 minutes after he walked out of the house, Bill was sitting in his chair and he started doing this thing with his arm. And he said his arm hurt, now looking back. And he said, my arm hurts from walking the dog. And if not going into all these things, but he basically had a massive heart attack in our living room. I called the ambulance and we went to the hospital. Never thought he was going to die. I didn't think that was, who thinks that? It didn't really even cross my mind. And I got put in that dreaded room that you wait in. I called my mom, Lauren, and was in Florida with you. And I had to wait. And I just had this sinking feeling. And it was one of those things that, they came back to update me. And when they came, the last time she left, I was sitting with my mom. She had gotten there. I said, if they come back and it's with another doctor, I said, he's gone. And They did. And this happened at 5 o'clock, and at 7:15, it was over. And
Wow.
like, I always think people say when your life changes an instant, we hear that all day long, every day.
Hmm.
But when it happens to you, you really don't get it until it happens to you.
Yeah.
And, it was, I still like look back on it and I still think like part of me I mean, no, it definitely was in shock because like that night, I said to my mom, I'm like, oh, well, I'll just take CJ skiing because we had plans to ski. And I remember being like pissed that
Yeah.
we couldn't go skiing. And I was like, and my mom's like, well, I don't think you're going to ski. I'm like, no, 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 we'll be fine. I'll ski. But like not really realizing like, whoa.
Yeah, your mind protects you, you know.
Hmm.
Yeah. Um,
And routine, I think in those tragic moments, routine is something that you kind of cling to, or like what I was supposed to do, I'm going to keep doing
oh
because
yeah.
that's all I've got. Everything else has been shattered, and I have no way to kind of figure out how I can focus on anything else.
And
So I'm just
anything
going to
else.
do
And the
skiing.
Sunday after he died, so he died on a Saturday, it was Sunday. I think you were home that Sunday, Lauren.
Yeah, I came home
And
that day.
yeah, and I was making sushi.
Oh yeah, because you were going to be making sushi that night and we didn't want the tuna to go bad. So
So I
legit
was
we
like
were
making
making
sushi
sushi.
rice and rolling sushi rolls, and I can remember like being like, "This is all fine. It's fine. We're just gonna make this as normal as possible." And like Lauren, you kept being like, "I can't believe we're making sushi right now."
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, I know Lauren was with me at the time in Florida when
Yeah.
Bill passed away. And it was as devastating to her as I can imagine anything in her life ever has been. I've
Oh yeah. I
never
mean, to be away.
seen somebody crumble like that before.
Yeah. I mean, well, there's a layer of like, you and Bill had a great relationship, but then a layer of being away from your family, like,
Yeah, I think that's what it was. I felt really trapped. I was like, "Oh, I just have to go home. Like I have to run home." I remember just repeating to you like I have to go home. I have to go home. I have to go home. I was
yeah,
like, "Could I run there? Like can I like how can I
Yeah.
get there?"
yeah.
But I will have to say I think that how you handled your grief was very inspiring, I think, to a lot of people. And I don't really know how much you remember, but you got a lot of comfort, it seemed, by posting and by sharing on social media, which I
Hmm.
think is fairly rare. But you definitely let people see the raw sides of grief, the intimate sides of grief. You really put yourself out there when you were dealing with this.
Yeah, well, I also think too, like, and I wasn't trying to do it to like, I I say this all the time. Look, I know I have a lot of people in my life, but I mean, every single one showed up.
Hmm.
I never thought, I mean, there were people waited in line for his calling hours, like, and I mean, that all is kind of a blur, but I felt it was the best way for me to update people in a way, to just say, hey, this is what's going on and it's good and it's bad or it's not good, but like I'll be okay. um People say, how do you do it? And you know you don't have a choice.
You
I
don't
mean,
have a
I do think,
choice.
yeah, I mean, I think some do have a choice. It's how you decide to move forward from it, especially if you have a child.
Yeah. I mean, it's how you show up. You do have a
Yeah.
choice. You have a choice in how you show up. I was impressed, like Lauren said, you shared so much, but I was also impressed at how you shared because you were able to let people in. And
Yeah.
I think that's a very, very brave and strong thing a characteristic of some people, is that you're brave enough to be vulnerable. You're brave enough to let someone take care of you. You're brave enough to let someone see you cry and weep or have joy and be okay with that on a random
Yeah.
day. That took a immense amount of vulnerability.
Yeah.
And that's a quality you possess. But I also wonder, like, if with somebody else going through grief, any sort of loss, and feeling trapped by their lack of vulnerability or scared to let people in, like, what would you advise them? How do you do that?
Well, here's the thing. I'm a doer and I jump in and like do things. So I think that's in my nature.
You're an innate caretaker too.
Right. And so the way I view it is I did that. Well, maybe it will help somebody else or
Mm,
inspire somebody else. I mean, that wasn't like my sole reasoning why. It felt good to tell people what I was feeling. It felt good to show people like this is real.
yeah.
Um, Not everybody's going to be like that, but I do feel like, we have a friend in common who lost her husband 2 months ago. And, I'm thinking to myself, I can help her. So I
Mm,
want to help her.
Mhm.
Um, I like to be the helper. Like I would be the person you look for in something if something were to happen. They always say look for the helpers.
yeah.
Well,
I'm
I
the
mean,
helper.
case in point, Mare is taping this podcast from my house because my daughter is sick. So she is the helper. I also find too that Bill passing and the timing of his passing is also another insane way that the universe has a plan.
Mm,
Um,
So 100%. And I don't did you I don't want to cut you off. I apologize.
no, you didn't.
Okay. Um
you're the star here.
Yeah.
oh geez, here we go.
Mayor for
But I
president.
would what?
Mayor for president.
Oh God. But I would agree with you. I never used to think that ever. And, I can, if you want me to rewind a little bit.
Yeah, let's go back. Let's move back
So,
to how you got to be such a badass.
well, Courtney, thank you.
Mm.
Um, so I've always struggled with mental health. In high school, really anxious person. Some of my buddies still make fun of me today, just my quirkiness. Um, I was diagnosed with OCD when I was 16, and not the hand washing kind, more the like, uh, I don't want to hurt somebody type of kind, or like intrusive thoughts.
Hmm.
I actually never knew
What?
that you were diagnosed with that at 16.
Oh, you didn't?
Mm-mm. Well, I was doing my own thing.
Yeah, you were.
Yeah.
For
There
that.
were other intrusive thoughts going on in your brain.
Correct.
Basically, how can I get out of my parents' house fast enough and steal their cars and alcohol and booze and just do my
Correct.
own
Yes.
jam?
Yeah.
Okay,
You were
carry on,
doing
Mayor.
you. I
Yeah.
was trying to figure myself out.
Yep.
And, they managed it with medication, but I mean, this was in the 90s, and I'll never forget a therapist said to me, I was like 15, no, 16. He said to me, this is something you're going to have for the rest of your life, and you're not going to
Mm.
be able to change it.
Wow.
And I was like, wow, that is awful to hear. And like, I remember going home to my mom and freaking out because, like, you know, again, people that have OCD, it's not just I'm washing my hands. The feeling and the panic that you get is debilitating, and it's terrifying, and it's anxiety times a million.
Can you explain? So it's not the hand washing type. Can you explain the type it is?
Yeah. So, I mean, I do sometimes have a little of that, but it can present in two ways. It can present in like thoughts. Okay. So, okay, what if I don't wash my hands? What if I don't do that and I touch chicken and I get so and so sick and that person gets so sick and they die from salmonella?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. We all have that thought.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
But if somebody that doesn't have OCD it's called a fleeting thought. It goes in, it goes out.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Okay. Or like, have you ever had what if I just drove my car off the side of a cliff? I don't know if anybody's had that thought. Like, what would happen?
Wow, Mayor.
I'm afraid of driving on bridges, so I
Well,
can
but
kind
that's
of
what I mean.
relate.
Some people that's a common theme is people think, what if I inadvertently just drive my car off?
Hmm.
I mean, I can say that now, but you think like, what if I completely lose control and I can't stop it? You have those thoughts. We have billions of thoughts a day that go in and out, but OCD
70,000 a
grabs it.
day.
What?
70,000 thoughts a day. 70,000.
Right. So somebody with OCD analyzes pretty much every single thought that they have
Mm.
and puts meaning behind it.
Oh, so you follow the story.
Pretty
You know what I mean?
much.
It's not just I might crash my car. It's I might crash my car, and then so and so is going to be alone for
And
the
what does
rest of their
that
life.
mean?
And
Does that
yeah,
mean correct? Does that mean that I want to die? Does that mean that like do I want to hurt somebody? I mean, you take it to a whole other level that is debilitating.
yeah. And
Um,
this is a medical condition. It's not something you can. I mean,
no, I'm
does
going to have this for
therapy
the
help
rest.
with that, or is
It
it
does. Yeah.
medication? Or
Medication and therapy for sure. It's called exposure. So like now I still get like, the thoughts every once in a while, but you have to so here's the thing. I'm a huge control freak. So giving up control is a very big deal for me.
Mhm.
So when those what ifs come in, I have to answer it with maybe that'll happen, maybe it won't. It most likely won't, but it might. I mean, I used to have the thoughts of, oh my God, what if Bill died? Or what if that happened?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he will, maybe he won't. But when
Yeah.
it happens, you deal with it.
So diagnosed at 16, which that was new to me. And then kind of in your adult life, things that it got ramped up quite
Yes.
a bit.
Yep. So then, like, and in my 20s, I supplemented with drinking and, doing all that kind of fun stuff, like to the extreme.
It's
And then I
very
just
fun.
figured out, okay, I'm going to stop. So I did. I don't drink. I don't do anything. And I don't ever say like I'm a recovering alcoholic. I just don't drink. My body can't handle it.
You made a conscious choice to not drink alcohol
Yeah,
for your mental health.
correct. But I'm not like sober curious.
No.
Kudos to those that are. I support people that go to AA. I just was like, I can't do this anymore. It is too much.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
And then, had CJ, I was kind of a nervous parent with him, but it was manageable. I mean, when you've lived with something your whole entire life, this is all I know. Um, and then COVID hit, and it's funny, I did start to drink during COVID because there was nothing to do.
I was just about to say because you were bored out of your fucking mind.
Yeah, correct. And
Yeah.
we would have these, and I was, in a way, I'm thankful for COVID because, right, Lauren, like we had a blast. Like
We
we had
did
these like Sundays that we would come over, everybody would come over, and we'd,
do ridiculous things. We do like axe cutting and
yeah,
like
and
bow
like,
and arrow
Didn't you
shooting,
have wrestling matches too?
wrestling
yes,
matches, paddle
we
matches,
had an
and
ATV, like
yep.
it was
And
just fun. And
with
so,
that came booze.
yeah. So, and I don't know if like something switched. So I think it was a combination of like I was drinking, I think it was COVID, it was stressful. And I think what happened was in
And I think your
2021,
medication wore off a little bit at that same
yeah,
time. It was
it was
like a
a,
perfect storm.
it was a perfect storm that literally brewed and brewed and brewed. And then I imploded and exploded like times 1,000. I just basically I like to equate it to a nervous breakdown.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I was hospitalized. I had to quit my job. I mean, I could not function. Now, what comes with OCD is depression. A lot of people don't realize that it's hand in hand.
Wow. I did
Um,
not know that.
yep. So if you have OCD or anxiety, you usually have an element of depression because if you think about it, when you're so consumed with like thoughts and what ifs and oh my God,
Hmm.
and then you're like, how can I go on like this? Well, yeah, you're going to be depressed. So it's up and down. And I mean, I was depressed. I would say like Lauren said, it was the perfect storm. I mean, Lauren, you remember, I couldn't get out of bed.
You couldn't function anymore as an
Yeah.
adult, as a human. I mean, and you were in the hospital 2 times
Yeah.
for a while.
Yeah.
Not a short time. It wasn't a
No,
couple of days.
no.
It
One was
was
a full week,
yeah.
and
And
then the
another
other
one
was,
was longer than that.
it was 2 weeks.
It came to a point where even when you were in the hospital, um, the second time, and it was 2 weeks, and I remember calling Bill and being like, we have to get her out of there.
Yeah.
Like, because we would go visit you, and it was the opposite of a place for healing.
Correct.
It
And that's the
was,
other sad part is if I could be an advocate for that, I don't know how. Courtney, that is a whole other try to like take on the world and help, but they did nothing for me. Um, I
it was hard. Like, you were not able to, like, I mean, yes, you remember some of it, but for the people that were caring for you, me, mom, and Bill, watching you in there, not having you get the help you need, like, it was such a difficult system to manage. And the three of us created our own outpatient program for Mare
yeah,
and signed her out of the hospital after 2 weeks.
after
And
against medical advice.
Bill had to sign that saying if she does leave against medical advice, that she will not be allowed back here. And our mom set up like a little outpatient therapy at her house, where Mare could, heal and get better and have her therapy appointments. And these therapy appointments that we got set up, to get and, on a schedule. And, our mom, she is no joke. I remember one day she was like, "Oh, I've got Mare digging a hole
I was
outside."
digging a hole.
What?
No, yep. I can remember she gave me a shovel and she was like, you're going to get your ass up and you're going to dig this hole and you're going to plant this tree. And I was thinking to myself, hmm, like I could barely take a walk, but I was like, fine, I
But
will dig the hole.
Very symbolic to
oh,
have you plant a tree
but
to dig
also,
a hole.
like, but what we know now, like nature,
Hmm.
being
Yeah.
in the outside, I mean, having your hands in dirt like that, it helps you slowly heal. Like, you spent so much time in the water. My mom lives by a Finger Lake, and you spent so much time in the water, and
Oh,
the
whenever I would
water.
get anxious, she'd say, jump in the lake. And you're going to swim to the neighbor's dock and back. And I did that 10 times a day.
I can't believe you still let your mom tell you what to do.
Oh,
I had no choice.
I know.
Yeah, there was no, I mean, you were a shell of a human being.
Yeah, it
A
was
shell.
sad. It was
Yeah.
sad. And it's a side that people don't, I like to forget about it. It's to this day it makes me a little anxious.
I mean, how could it not?
I know. But
Yeah.
the thing that, it's funny, like I always think like, oh God, I did that to you guys. And that's when my mom will always say, this was not your fault. This was like if somebody got diagnosed with cancer, if somebody, you know, unfortunately has, a diagnosis that they can't, she's like, this was not your fault. So, because it makes me like, I still can't, I just want to get away from it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you are,
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. I
you
mean,
know?
and the one thing that if I ever start to get anxious, I think about the hospital and I'm like, I am never going back to that ever.
I did that, even visiting that place. I was like, damn.
It's sad.
From being in that industry for a period of time, they're there to keep you alive.
Yeah.
Correct.
They did
It
that.
is a hospital.
Yep.
They are there to keep you alive until
I think in this day and age, with more focus on mental health, I think there was an expectation of more.
Correct.
But you are 100%
That was it,
correct,
yeah.
and that was what they were doing. But you're 100% correct. You know, seeing this seeing the progression and seeing everything you have gone through firsthand and experiencing it alongside of you. Had you not experienced the mental health crisis, you would have not been able to handle the passing of Bill.
No.
You know what I mean? And
Oh, 100%. That to me, so there is a reason why I went through that.
mhm.
Um, I had to really fall to get back up and handle it. And then I'll never forget one of my best friends said, um, when it happened, she got together with another friend and said they were like terrified.
Oh, I
Like,
was terrified. I
yeah,
mean, I
like
remember telling you, like, I'm terrified.
like is this going to throw me back into, because you never know. Like these things are just quick and traumatic and you don't know what's going to happen. And no, I didn't have a choice.
Well, and also too, you already had, because you went through that, you had a system already set in place, which it was so important for people with mental
Mm.
health. Like you had, you therapists, you had your, psychiatrists, you
Hmm.
had all your medications, you already had people like
In place.
in place,
I mean, I
ready
called my
to,
therapist the night he died.
yeah.
You know what I mean? I texted her and she was like, call me now.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
it's, I mean, that's somebody that I love and trust. And, you know, um,
I just think it's just so crazy that because of that, you were able to handle the grief of Bill. And it's hard. Like that grief is hard. But most importantly, you were able to be there for CJ and be strong for CJ when
yeah,
CJ needed you, because Bill took the best care of CJ when you were
yep,
down and out. You know what
yep.
I mean? And now, I don't want to say repaying the favor, but
No,
now,
but I
like,
know what you mean. Like I
but
can step up.
those efforts that Bill put in
Hmm.
with CJ, you're
Yeah,
doing, you know what I mean? You're
for
doing now for
sure.
him.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, I say this all the time. I say this to mom, but what I went through in 2021 uh, was a billion times worse than Bill's death. I hate saying that,
That's
but
how bad it was.
that's how bad it was.
Yeah. And I just think of all of the people that are out there struggling with such severe mental health without the family support.
That's
Because
what
if
I mean.
you
Like,
didn't
I'm so
have the
lucky.
support of your family,
Right. It's terrifying. And that's just where my heart breaks for people that don't have, um, I don't even know what you would do.
I
They,
think it's a really good lesson, is actually what popped into my head, is really reminding every day when we're interacting with people, when we're having exchanges with people, acquaintances, friends, whatever, you have no fucking idea what is going on with somebody.
no idea.
No idea. So what a lesson. Like it just gives me chills because we always need these constant reminders. I do, like we all do. Let's just all lead with kindness and compassion and grace and understanding.
Yep.
Always.
And that's the other thing that I think like this has taught me is, I mean, Courtney, you and I became more close after like Bill, and then obviously when you guys offered me the job to like help and whatever. So
Yeah.
the new and improved mayor who's like been working on myself, but I used to be pretty miserable.
Tough.
Like, yeah, I just kind of had like a woe is me attitude. It's everything's the glass is always half empty. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
it was always half empty. It was just like,
You were
"Ugh."
Eeyore.
Y- like, Mayor, there's no way I would have allowed you to work with me
No,
had
I
you
know.
been
And I get
how
that.
you
And I
were.
understand that. And now, like, my patience and just my overall general view of like the life that we have. And it feels funny and kind of cliche to say, like, we are given a gift, not cliche, but
Go
it
for it.
makes me, what?
Go
I
for it.
said, go for it. Say it.
Uh, It just makes like I'm appreciative of what I have and what I've been through. And, it's funny. I still get the times when I'm sitting at the deli counter and the gal says, pick a number, you're in line, and there's nobody there. And I pick the number and I want to bite my tongue because I'm like, this was bad. But like, I want to lose my cool on somebody, the
Hmm.
gal at the deli counter, or the person not going fast enough, or honking my horn, or doing this or doing that. And I just kind of like take a deep breath and I'm like,
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
it
Yeah.
don't matter.
And the reminder, who
Yeah.
knows what those people are going through? I think
Yeah.
that it would be interesting too, Court, to share the story on how Mare started to work for Moon and Stone,
Oh,
because
yeah.
Mare had to leave her job. And you were the breadwinner. Would you say that the
Yeah.
co-breadwinners,
Yep.
yep, of your family? So that was a really big thing when Mare had to leave her job for over a year.
Hmm.
She was in insurance, and that's what she had done, and very, very successful, a career.
Yeah.
And she had to leave her job, but she's also a very talented graphic designer. And Court actually, this is funny. You tell the story, Courtney.
Okay, so I met with a psychic. Not surprising.
Yeah.
And nobody's surprised by this, okay? It's not my first time, won't be my last. And we were talking about Moon and Stone. I was kind of looking for a little bit of insight on the business and telling the psychic about our company. And she said, your dad's here with me. And my dad passed away in 2011. I've always felt a connection with him since his passing. He's a big part of my life still. I'm very grateful that he watches over me. And I said, oh, great. What does he have to say? Like, I was looking for something like, I love you, or the kids are amazing, or you're doing great things, you're going to be okay in your divorce. He was like, she goes, he just keeps saying the number 3. And I was like, oh, great. This is not a game. This is not a game that I signed up for today. I said, okay. And she said, no, it has to do with your company. Three. Is there 3? Do you have.
No, there is 2.
I was like, no, there's no 3. Like, I would like us to be a bigger company, but no, there's no 3. And then I thought about it and I was like, actually, we have been thinking about hiring Lauren's sister. And this is really before I knew what Meredith did. Lauren one day said, wouldn't it be great if someday my sister could make a living working for us? And I said, she said something about that. Do you think that's it? And they said, yes, you have to hire Meredith. That's what he's saying. And so I
And
called Lauren.
your dad was a creative.
Correct. My dad was in advertising.
Hmm.
He went to school for art and was a graphic designer himself for a long time before becoming a partner in an advertising firm. And I said, Lauren, this is really weird. I think my dad wants us to hire Meredith. And she was like, cool. I mean, when
Right.
you own a business, let's get the neighbors talking. When you own a business and you can go on what a psychic says,
Totally.
pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good to be able to call your business partner and said, the psychic told me this. Can we do it?
That's well, we
Yes.
were both hemming and hawing over it. I know I knew Mare's talents, but I also really wanted to be able to give her the flexibility with her kid.
Mhm.
But I was nervous, like, can the business support it? And then your dad told us it could, and then so I said, fine. Somebody was like, it can. So it worked out great.
It did work out great.
Yeah.
And I'm forever grateful for that. Like, and that's the other thing too, is it has,
You would have
and
still been in insurance. Now you work for Crystal Gales.
yeah, no. Yeah.
I think
Now
that's
you
a
work
good
for
thing.
Oh, totally. That's what I'm saying.
It
Like
is. You
everything,
sell magic rocks.
all of the shit led to this.
Yes. And that
You're happy.
I'm happy. Like
Tell us
the happiest I have ever been in a very, very, very long time.
Tell us about that, Soul.
tell us where you are now. Where is
Oh,
Meredith now?
Where is Meredith now? Well, right now I'm sitting on the couch in Lauren's freezing cold sunroom.
It's not sunny at home.
No, it's freezing. So I met somebody. I met
Ooh.
somebody. Yeah. And I was ready to date. And I think it's, I do put myself out there and I am vulnerable. And I'm not one to be like, sitting home and not doing anything, and I was ready to do it. So I got on a dating app and I went on some really weird dates with some weirdos. And then I found Tyler.
Uh,
He's the best.
He's the absolute best person in the entire world.
He's also
And
a baby.
everybody, he's 11 years younger than me. And it's
Damn,
yes!
Meredith.
oh, good. Sorry, you kind of nailed that. Yeah.
He's like the best.
Yeah.
He's the best. And we chatted for a long time, like, back and forth. And it was funny. I remember thinking to myself, I'm not going to let anybody meet my kid. No way. It's going to be 6 months till somebody meets my kid and blah, blah, blah. And 3 weeks after, I think it was the night after we got back from South Carolina, Lauren,
Mm-hmm.
I texted Tyler, I was like, why don't you meet us at our house and you can meet CJ? And I asked CJ and he was like, yes. So it just was all meant to be and work. And he moved
Well,
in and
the funny thing with the South Carolina is we drove there, which is 17 hours, and I was like, Mare, why aren't you freaking driving? Like,
I
why
was
is it just
texting Tyler
me?
the entire time.
Yes, she was texting Tyler the entire time and didn't want to drive because she wanted to be texting Tyler. And meanwhile, me and my husband are like slamming energy drinks because there's no other willing driver.
I drove an hour.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, you
And
did.
Meredith, did you, after Bill passed and you started dating, did you think this was in your cards? Like, did you think this sort of love that was different? Bill and Tyler, very different people. Um, did you think that your new self was ready to let somebody else in? Like to love. To date is one thing, but to like let somebody love you.
Yeah. Like, I didn't know what to expect.
Mhm.
I didn't know what to expect. And when Tyler and I had an instant connection, and I remember saying, it's natural to compare the two, right? You want to compare. Like, I was married for 15 years and now I have somebody. So, you know, it's not the same. It's a completely different kind of love,
Mhm.
um, in the best way possible. Um, he just makes me the happiest gal in the whole entire world.
Oh, Courtney, here we go. I
But
know.
and I don't know. I think, yeah, I was ready. I was ready, but I also think too, like, Tyler was ready. Like,
Hmm.
we were meant to. It was like it meant. I just keep saying to myself too, like, I mean, he lives with me, and I'm still sometimes like, wow,
What
this is
happened?
amazing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And like, how did I get so lucky?
Ah,
Like, in the midst of like all that shit, like, I still consider myself one of the luckiest people in the world because I have him, and he's got my back, and he loves CJ like his own. CJ loves him
A lot.
a lot.
like
Um,
really, really likes him.
Like,
Like
basically wants Tyler all to himself.
kind of
correct.
stalker.
Yeah, it's very sweet.
I mean, yeah, Tyler's a young, hip guy. Who
Yeah,
wouldn't want that?
exactly. I mean, they snowboard together. Like,
Yeah,
it's the
they
best
play
thing
video
ever.
games. Like,
Yeah. And I just think to myself, like, how did I get so lucky? And I don't know if many people could say that.
No, because some people don't allow themselves to see the gratitude that is right in front of them today because
Yeah.
they are very focused on their trauma and pain of the past.
Yeah.
And
I
we
used to
all get
be.
swept up in that. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've been in that position too with my depression. There was
Yeah.
years where I was so focused on old shit
Yeah.
instead of looking around and seeing what's right in front of me. And what's right in front of you right now is beautiful. And you brought it here, though. It didn't just happen. You opened up, you allowed it to be there, you focused on the good. You did that. Like you manifested this sort of life for yourself.
Yeah. You think?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. See, sometimes I have a hard time with that. I don't know if I like will. maybe subconsciously. I don't
It
know.
doesn't have to be something that you traditionally manifest where you write and you're like, okay,
Hmm.
this is what I want. Some people are
Right.
like that, but some people just open themselves up to their path and their journey.
Yeah.
You just said, I am naked laying on the ground. I
Oh,
am just,
Yikes. Danger.
yeah.
That might have happened back in the 20s.
what I meant. What I meant
I just got
was,
nervous.
are you sweating? Now I'm sweating. I'm sorry I made everybody uncomfortable.
No, you
What I
didn't.
meant
Right.
was you opened yourself up to possibility in your
Right.
journey, in your path. And you said, okay, just I'm going to do this thing.
Right.
You led with gratitude.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Yeah,
The
I
most
think,
powerful energy.
yeah, I think, yeah.
Naked gratitude.
Oh,
Maybe it's a new retreat. I'm not attending that one. That's for
no,
damn sure.
hell no.
I shall stay home and
No.
clothed.
Yeah. Mm.
Home, clothed, and upright. Mayor, we really, really appreciate you being so open to sharing your story, because I do think it's such a unique story. And I also think that it really, kind of reinforces what we preach and talk about here at Moon and Stone about trusting our path, trusting our journey. The crumbling is just the beginning sometimes. So we appreciate you taking the time and watching my kid and sharing your story on our podcast.
Oh, you guys,
We love you. We're
I love
so
you guys
grateful for
too.
you.
It's and I think if it reaches one person and one person can say, I've been there, or how did you do this? Like, I will help you.
Yeah.
I will be the helper.
I
Yeah.
love it.
So if anybody is listening and you do know of somebody that is struggling with grief or the ability or is going through the shit and is having a hard time seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, share this with them, because it really is an inspiring, heartbreaking story,
But it
but
all comes
inspiring.
out of, yeah,
Yes.
it does.
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
in love.
Oh
Oh,
boy.
boy.
All right, Mayor. All
Bye.
right,
Love you.
everybody. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you for listening. Please be sure to follow us on Instagram, follow us on Facebook, follow us and subscribe to our podcast. You can be reminded of our new episodes. We will release a new episode every other Friday. Shenanigans will not stop, but I will.
Go.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.